guys, and welcome back to the channel for a special tag video. So I saw this tag recently and I thought, yeah, why the hell not, and discovered some awesome channels in the process. So I will pop down where I saw the tag, hop across, watch that video if you haven't already. It's on a channel called the Rad Pack, which is made up of different individuals from different horror channels, none of which I'd heard of, which I thought was awesome. So they're now all part of my list. Had I known about them in advance, I 100% would have been on my 31 days of horror YouTubers. So please check out the Rad Pack and everyone that makes up the Rad Pack. So this is Rad 9 Movies That Scared Us, a community challenge. So you've probably done this. I have seen a couple of people pop up on this. This is movies that scared us. It could be TV shows, it could be adverts, it could be anything that scared you growing up. Now, full disclosure, I haven't taken these from being a child because I can't remember very much that really stayed with me and frightened me as a child. There is one for sure. The others are just taken from different stages in my life. What this made me really aware of is the fact that it's really difficult to scare a horror fan. I love more than anything watching something that frightens me or creeps me out, but it's rare, and it's generally only a fleeting feeling during a movie. It's very rare I will keep up that level of, discomfort the whole way through a movie. So I've got a few honourable mentions here and 9 that at some stage in my life creeped me out completely, or certain scenes really just stayed with me, so a bit of both. So the honourable mentions are, and I'm going to actually discuss some scenes here, guys. I will try not to completely ruin them for you, but if I mention a movie that you want to see that you haven't seen, then maybe skip forward. I won't talk at great length about it. Maybe skip forward about 20 seconds. So, my honourable mentions are Irreversible, the French movie. There is a scene in that with a fire extinguisher that I found really difficult to watch. The actual scene is on YouTube. If you haven't seen the movie and don't want to watch the movie, this is a French movie. It's got a very famous scene of SA that happens in, I think it's like an underground sort of like alleyway. It's very extended. It goes on for a long time. It's absolutely hideous and horrible, and it's such a hard movie to watch. This movie is more or less told a bit like Memento. It is told out of sync, so you don't really know what's happened to lead to this point. And in the process of trying to get revenge for what's happened to the woman in the movie, this guy is hunted down, and it's a scene in a club with a fire extinguisher. Now, the soundtrack to this was done by, I believe, Daft Punk, and they actually purposely searched for sounds that make you feel nauseous, that provoke discomfort and make you feel on edge. It's been designed to do that. And this is the sounds that play as the scene's playing out. And I hate, well, two things. I hate this scene, but I can't help but be really admirable of it, because it just really, I hate it. So it creeps me out to such a degree. It's so well done. It's hideously well done. It's like, how the hell have they done this so well? But it creeps me out. So, and that's an honourable mention. I mean, the reason I put that in honourable mentions is it's not so much scare as, when you watch something, your pulse quickens and you just think, what the hell am I watching? That's what it does to me. So, Irreversible, fire extinguisher scene. If you haven't seen it, Google it. I apologise. The scene at the start of the first Scream movie, I have to mention, with Drew Barrymore. Now, obviously this was advertised, and Drew Barrymore I adore. I love her as an actress, and we're expecting her to be the star of this show. And if you haven't seen Scream, I make no apologies, because you're a horror fan, you should have done. When we lose Drew Barrymore right at the start of that movie, I was just gobsmacked. But the thing, I saw this in the cinema as well, so I'm giving clues to my age there. It was how realistic I felt the stabbing was in this. It felt real, and it was one of the first movies I'd seen where the stabbing felt real to me. It just seemed so brutal and so matter of fact and so realistic that it disturbed me. So yeah, I had to make a mention of that one. And the last honourable mention is The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I absolutely love that movie. It's probably one of my favourite exorcism movies that exist. There's a scene in particular where she wakes up, or maybe her roommate wakes up and she's on the floor in this really weird crab-like position with completely black eyes.
Can you hear me?
And when I saw that, I remember actually shivering. I remember, oh bloody hell, that's horrible. And then I winded it back to watch it again because that's what you do when you're a horror fan. So that's my 3 honourable mentions, guys. So let's get into it. Number 9 is Lake Mungo. 2004, is that 2008 movie? This is either loved or loathed. It's a found footage style movie. I found it really creepy. I love it. The scene in question is footage that is found on a girl that has died mobile phone. I won't tell you what that is, but if you've seen it, you will know what that is and why that's creepy. But just even how it's put together, how everything's played slowly, how it's drawn out, how things come into focus really slowly.
Something bad is going to happen to me. I feel like something bad has happened. It hasn't reached me yet, but it's on its way.
Masterfully done. Like Mungo just is a movie that leaves me with a feeling on edge of dread while I watch it. I've watched it multiple times. It's a movie that you feel should only really work once, but for me it works on every rewatch. I love Like Mungo. Number 8 is, most of this list's going to be no surprises, guys. I apologise for how basic they are, but they're popular for a reason. I think that they do this to all of us, is The Shining. It's the whole descent into madness of the Jack character. It's the madder he gets, it's how his face almost morphs into that of a madman. It's the whole pursuit of Wendy through the house. It's even the scene of his face frozen. All of it, I just feel really unsettled watching that. Even before shit hits the fan, you know it's coming, and it just leaves, it has this just air of being unsettled when I watch The Shining. So that's my number 8. Number 7 is Aliens, the second one, 1986. I don't know these things off the top of my head. I need to write them down. Why do men always know the years that movies are released? It's like a hidden talent. What year did this album come out? What year was this movie released? And they'll always know exactly when. I don't know how they do it. So 1986, Aliens. I do really enjoy Alien. I prefer Aliens because Aliens was the first one I saw. And it's that whole feeling of dread, of skulking about, of being hunted down by the xenomorph. The face huggers freaked the arse off me. The thought of something clung to your face. So yeah, just the overall feeling of being hunted and dread. And there's no way of beating this thing. It gets you, you're fucked, that's it. So Aliens is my number 7. My number 6 is a 1974 movie. It's probably one of my favourite ever horror movies. It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I had no real interest in seeing this. I saw this really young. What actually happened was I had a friend that used to have satellite TV long before I did, Sky, and he used to tape me on long play, if you're old enough to remember long play. It's where you could fit double the amount on a VHS cassette, but the quality wasn't very good. And he would tape me things like FBI files and forensic files from Sky, and I would sit on a Saturday and Sunday all day, happy as Larry, watching my true crime stuff. But he had taped over an old video of his, and on the end of this was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it started playing through, and I missed the start of it because he'd taped over it, but I started watching it, and the grainy quality of this VHS actually added to the experience as far as I'm concerned, and I was transfixed by this. I couldn't take my eyes off it. You know, sometimes in life you see something and like half of you doesn't want to see it, but the other half of you can't look away from it. I think they do refer to it as car crash phenomenon. You just can't take your eye away. And I'm watching this guy chasing this girl, waving this thing around his head, and I was so completely disturbed by this. I was quite young, and it really, really got to me, but I couldn't stop watching it. And when I'd finished, I thought, that was a horror movie. That was a real, honest to goodness horror movie, and that did for me what I've been wanting horror movies to do for me for years that they've never done. And obviously straight away went out and watched the full thing. Never really recaptured that feeling of the first time, of that grainy VHS, of not knowing what to expect, of knowing nothing about the movie and then seeing that. Wow, blew me away. Amazing movie, still love it to this day. It's not as gory as people seem to think it is. There's very little gore in it. It's just that whole intention, and it's the whole madness of the family, and that scene around the dinner table with Grandpa. I'm sure if you had a video of my face watching it, my jaw would have been hung open. Wonderful. So number 5 is not a particularly popular choice, but it's going in there because it's true, is Blair Witch Project. I saw this, I'm looking all kinds of bad. Again, I was really young. I saw this before it hit the cinema in the UK. I got a pirated disc from Japan, I believe. Basically, I got to see this at home before it hit the cinemas in the UK, and I knew nothing about it. This was at a time before the internet was a real, you know, I'm not going to say before the internet was a thing, before everyone had the internet in their homes. I certainly didn't. I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about the concept. I had this DVD with Japanese subtitles on to watch. Watched it, was like, is this real? Did this happen? And that feeling at the time, when people say you couldn't have believed it was real, we did. When it hit the cinema, I think people realised it wasn't real. But before that point, when you know nothing about it, when there's not the internet to Google everything, when you're just presented with this and you've never seen found footage before, it was like, oh my God. And just the feeling that conveyed of, am I watching this for real? And that bit at the end when the person stood facing the corner, what the fuck's happened? Wondering, have you just witnessed something really horrendous and not actually knowing for real whether you have or haven't? It's something that I feel like older horror fans of us have experienced that perhaps younger ones unfortunately don't get to, because now everything's so readily available. Now you can Google everything. I'm from an era where if you wanted to know something, you went to the library and looked it up in a book. We didn't have Google. I think I was in my 20s, mid-20s, before I had the internet at home. So that'll give you an idea. I'm fucking ancient. So that's Blair Witch Project, number 5. Number 4 is Ring. Very similar feeling to this. It felt real. And it was odd. And it was the first foreign movie I think I ever watched. It was this cursed videotape, and you thought, is there a potential this could be true? I'd never seen anything like it before. When we got to see what was on the tape, and it didn't really make much sense, and it was just these mix of weird, slightly unsettling, disturbing images that all on their own shouldn't be disturbing, but altogether were completely disturbing, and the sounds on there and the music, obviously that extremely famous well scene, freaked the hell out of me. Really, that part where she crawls out of the well scared me, and I'm like I sat back in my seat, and then she crawled out of the fucking TV. I nearly had kittens. It was such a new thing at the time, and it saddens me that younger horror fans won't get to experience stuff like that, because now we know everything about everything, and everything's on the end of our fingertips to discover. And then it wasn't, even if you found out the next week or the next month the background of the movie, that moment when you're sitting watching it and the day after, you can't reach for a phone. We didn't have those either. Can't reach for a phone and Google, because you just couldn't. So yeah, Ring is my number 4. My number 3 is the first Paranormal Activity movie. It's no mistake, anybody that knows me, that I adore found footage. Not very many are done really well, but some are pulled off wonderfully. That's what she said. Paranormal Activity, for me, anything that is paranormal that is well done will frighten me. That's my top fear unlocked, paranormal shit. It's that scene where the person's in bed and their foot's hanging out, and you know that age-old thing, I'm too warm, I'll put my foot out of the duvet, that'll cool me down a bit. But then inwardly you're thinking, and it comes from childhood, what if there's some shit under the bed that grabs my foot? Well, this movie unlocks that childhood fear where something unseen grabs this person's foot and drags them the hell out of the bed. Jesus Christ, it's like, you know when you think a fear's yours, but then you discover it's like loads of people have it? I've always been scared of the thought of someone grabbing my foot when I'm in bed at night, and this completely realised this was playing out a real fear of mine in front of my face. So that comes in at my number 3. Number 2 is probably the most recent movie on here. This is a 2018 movie. It was my favourite movie of that year. It's very, very divisive. I recommended this to my best friend and her partner. They went to see it and they fucking hated it. Hereditary. Some people love it, some people hate it. I love it. The acting in that is just glorious. And I'm going to parrot what was said on the Rad Pack channel about this movie. It's not the scene in the car with the head. That was wonderfully done. It's 2 scenes. It's scenes where things are happening in the background that you haven't quite seen right away, and then you like double take and it's like, what's that? And then your eyes widen as you take in what it is, and then it continues to like creep about in the background. Shadows and shadows becoming things and stuff you missed. There's that scene, and it's crawling across the back wall when we're supposed to be looking at what's in the forefront. And the other scene, there's 2 other scenes actually. One of the next one is when she's banging her head off a door. And just the manner in which it's done and the ferocity and the quickness of it just really freaks me out. And then there's the scene with the neck. Oh, Jesus. Those scenes creep me the hell out. Those 3 scenes in that movie I think are genius because they really made me feel something. And if you can present a movie to me and make me feel something, I'm a fan. So Hereditary is my number 2. Now I've kept for number 1 the only movie that scared the bejesus out of me as a child. It stayed with me all my life. I couldn't wait to show it to my son, who said to me, why the hell were you scared of that? That's not scary. It's Poltergeist. Again, paranormal. I was very young. I grew up watching horror movies. My dad was a big horror fan, big Stephen King fan. So my childhood, I'd seen, I don't know, Cujo, all the big Stephen Curry, Maximum Overdrive. I'm just trying to think. Every big Stephen King film. And then obviously things like Nightmare on Elm Street, Hellraiser, Halloween, Friday the 13th, all of that stuff. Child's Play. I love the first Child's Play movie. I think it's brilliant. But I wasn't easily scared as a child. I loved horror movies. The first horror movie I ever saw was Silver Bullet with Corey Haim, Gary Busey. American Werewolf in London is one I saw very young. So I watched all this kind of stuff growing up and it didn't scare me. I loved it. But the first time I saw Poltergeist scared the fucking life out of me. It's the thought of where is she? It's like all this talk of can you see the light? And you know, it's a bit cheesy now, but as a child, the bit with the tree in the garden, eating the little boy, the storm coming closer, just everything about it. The fact that the paranormal investigators that come to investigate fuck off because they're scared. It's everything about the movie. It's just the perfect mix for me. The characters, perfect family, love it. Absolutely love it. Still love it. It's one of my favourite horrors. And before I go, I just need to mention Poltergeist 2, Reverend Kane, scariest fucking horror character in existence. I do realise that the actor was very ill. He had stomach cancer, which is what added to his appearance. But aside from that, the acting in that song, which I can still sing fully, it stayed with me for years. The one God is in his holy temple, earthly thoughts be silent. Now I can sing it.
God is in his holy temple. Earthly thoughts be silent now.
The whole character was just eerie as hell. Such a scary character. I much prefer the first Poltergeist, but I must mention Reverend Kane in Poltergeist 2. So guys, there we go. That is horror movies that have scared me, frightened me, that I grew up with. As I say, unfortunately I couldn't do that scared me as a child because most things that sort of got to me were much older, but hopefully that will give you some kind of idea of me. If you're seeing this, please feel free to do the tag. I'm not going to tag any individuals, but I am going to say if you see this, if you want to do it, please feel free. I would love to see your answers. Please let me know if you do so I can check out your answers also. And obviously please tag the original person that originated the tag. All of the details will be below. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I will be back next week with another weekly watches. Thanks for watching this video. Over and out from Lisa Loves.